Hi everybody, it's Curious Raven with another true crime video. This one is about a mysterious death, so let me go ahead and just get into it. The mysterious death of John P. Wheeler III. It was so baffling to so many. John Wheeler's background even makes it hard to understand what theory actually took place. Wheeler was born on December 14, 1944, in Laredo, Texas. He descended from a family of military professionals that includes Joseph Wheeler, who had served as a general both in the Confederate Army and later with the United States Army. Wheeler himself was a member of the United States Military Academy class, which lost 30 of its members in the Vietnam War. After his graduation from West Point, Wheeler became a fire control platoon leader at a base at Franklin Lakes, New Jersey from 1966 to 1967. After that, he became a graduate student of Harvard Business School, spending the summer of 1968 as a systems analyst for the Office of Secretary of Defense in Washington, D.C. He went on to serve in a non-combat position in Vietnam. Upon his return, he served on the general staff at the Pentagon. After leaving the military, he attended law school at Yale University, became a clerk for George E. McKinnon, and joined a law firm. He served both Bush administrations and became CEO of Mothers Against Drunk Driving. He also founded the Vietnam Children's Fund and served as Secretary of the Securities and Exchange Commission. Some of his outstanding accomplishments include getting the Vietnam Memorial Wall built, as well as writing an in-depth manual on how the effects of biological and chemical weapons, which he was against and strongly cautioned should be pursued with utmost restraint by the United States. With an impressive career, he was the last person family and friends could believe would be the victim of a baffling unsolved murder. The police, they called it a homicide, but actually the coroner put homicide, but supposedly they really don't know for sure. This is what happened though. On New Year's Eve, the investigation into the Wheelers' murder would go on to paint a very strange and ominous picture of the days leading to his death. Wheeler, who regularly commuted between Washington, New York, and Wilmington, lived in a waterfront duplex that he inherited from his brother in a historic part of Newcastle, located approximately a mile away. About 40 minutes later, video surveillance captured Wheeler appearing disheveled in a parking garage. He appeared to be limping and without his coat, and he was carrying one shoe in his hand. He seemed to be searching for his car, which would be later found in another Wilmington parking lot. He told one of the lot attendants that his briefcase had been stolen. "I knew something wasn't right," said Eamon Goldsboro, a parking lot attendant who encountered Wheeler, "but I never thought it would end up like this." All of this was uncharacteristic of Wheeler, and his friends said they were not aware of any health problems that may have contributed to his bizarre behavior. On the night of his disappearance, Wheeler wandered into a Newcastle pharmacy at 6 p.m., asking the pharmacist for a ride to the Wilmington train station. The pharmacist offered to call a cab for him, but Wheeler left the store. To add to the already bizarre behavior leading up to the days before Wheeler's homicide, Wheeler's neighbor claimed that during the week before his death, his television had been turned up to full volume at the residence and left on for 24 hours a day. Wheeler was practically never seen during this time. His wife had been traveling and was out of town, so she never reported him missing or saw his odd behavior. People who did see him in the days leading up to his death said he acted as if he were drunk or drugged. Wheeler was described by friends to be a bulldog of a man, an avid supporter of cadet football, and also a constant emailer. They said they suspected something was wrong when Wheeler's emails dwindled and he hadn't responded to celebratory emails when the Army won its bowl game on December 30th. Seemingly baffled, authorities were very closed-mouthed and did not elaborate as to where or how the murder happened. In fact, all they could be certain of it, that his body ended up in a garbage truck in Newmark and was transported to the city landfill. There have been several theories as to what happened to Wheeler. One such theory revolves around the dispute he was having with his neighbors. The lawsuit had been filed against Frank Mariani for blocking his view, and what made it even more menacing was that Wheeler was suspected in the arson against Mariani. Also, one of the buildings that Wheeler was wandering around the night of his disappearance was a law firm that was handling his case against Mariani. The idea is that the neighbors may have taken the dispute too far, but there is no evidence to support this theory. The second theory, there is a theory that Wheeler had gotten in too deep with the government and was silenced. Wheeler had been working as a consultant for the Maitri Corporation, a nonprofit that manages federally funded research and development centers supporting the Department of Defense, Federal Aviation Administration, Department of Homeland Security, and other federal agencies. He then went to work as the Executive Vice President and Director of Communications of the WVC3 Group, an anti-terrorism security firm based in Reston, Virginia. Prior to his death, Wheeler had been working on cyber warfare, which he had been vocal that the United States was woefully unprepared for. He was specifically working on detecting cyber intrusions and criminal activity on the nation's secured networks. Some think that this activity at the time of his death raised many red flags due to his work potentially impacting the upper echelons of the government. There was also a claim that Wheeler's house was not a crime scene yet. Police proceeded to search the house and pry up floorboards, which only fueled the existing conspiracy theories. As intriguing as this may be, there is still little evidence to draw a conclusion. On December 31st, Wheeler was found when a landfill worker saw his body fall into a trash heap in the Cherry Island landfill in Wilmington. Police ruled his death a homicide by blunt force trauma. Another mystery is how Wheeler's body ended up in the dumpster in a heavily traveled commercial area of Newmark. The garbage truck had begun its route at 4:30 a.m. and arrived at the landfill at 10 a.m. after making 10 stops at an array of businesses, including a seniors complex, a car dealership, and a public library. Many of the dumpsters were locked or had surveillance cameras in the vicinity, leading police to believe Wheeler's body was picked up towards the beginning of the driver's route. It was a shocking discovery. How did a well-respected man, almost a national hero, end up sprawled out in a garbage dump? On January 7th, 2011, police recovered Wheeler's cell phone from a house that was under construction across the street from Wheeler's home in Newcastle. Wheeler had filed a lawsuit challenging zoning approval for the neighborhood house because it was partially blocking his view of Battery Park and the Delaware River. In addition, smoke bombs had been set off in the house prior to Wheeler's death that police suspected Wheeler may have detonated. Police questioned further Wheeler may have dropped the phone while detonating the smoke bombs. Another question and a mystery that only seems to deepen with time. It seems like we'll never know what happened to him. Was it a burglary gone bad, a vendetta, or a murder on the government's watch? Maybe a terrible accident. Someone knows, but without a crime scene and no witnesses that have come forward, John P. Wheeler's death remains a mystery. And we may never know what really happened that fateful day. Someone talked to Wheeler's wife. Her name is Catherine Kleiss. When Clyce viewed the widely circulated video of her late husband, John P. Wheeler III, wandering around a Wilmington parking garage less than 2 days before he was beaten to death, she sees fear in his face of the man she loved. Clyce says that she thinks he was afraid. Everyone else thought that he appeared disoriented on video clips, but she said that he looked scared. They were married for 13 years, so she is the one that knows him best. A period in which he also beseeched his pharmacist for a ride from Newcastle to Wilmington and asked strangers to drive him to Philadelphia. Clyce says that she doesn't think he was acting abnormal. He was known for his quirky habits and forgetfulness. Clyce said that he was a very blunt and outspoken 66-year-old man who suffered from bipolar disorder. He made lots of enemies during his years in the national defense community and as one of the key founders of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington. But Clyce says that she didn't think anyone would kill him. She didn't know of anyone. Wheeler was killed by lethal blows more than 4 months ago. Clyce has pondered whether he was killed by someone he accidentally encountered in Wilmington, where he was last seen shortly before 9 p.m. on December 30th, or whether he was the victim of assassination. Clyce thought someone was paid to kill Wheeler, but her lawyer said she was only considering possibilities. In a mystery that has drawn worldwide media scrutiny and a $25,000 reward offer from Clyce, police say that they have no suspects and don't know whether he was killed in a targeted or random attack. Though police have been tight-lipped about what they have uncovered, Clyce's account helped fill several gaps in a timeline that began when Wheeler left their New York City condominium the morning of December 28th and ended up with the discovery of his corpse 3 days later. For example, she said Wheeler was found wearing his Rolex watch bought in Vietnam during his tour in the late 1960s and treasured West Point class ring, though the neck wallet Wheeler usually wore to carry a credit card, keys, and identification card were not returned. I said that the discovery of the expensive jewelry on his body cast doubt on the robbery theory. Though authorities won't say where on Wheeler's body the fatal blows were inflicted, Clyce said that when she viewed his corpse a few days later, she saw bruising on his face under the mortician's makeup, and his head was swollen. She saw his body only for the neck up and speculated the fatal blows were on his torso. Clyce said that police have given her conflicting accounts about whether Wheeler also had a heart attack after being beaten. First they said he did, then they said he didn't, and then they said he did. The widow also revealed that Wheeler was hospitalized briefly in 2004 during a manic phase, but said she saw no indications that he was having any emotional problems during the Christmas holidays, when they were together and mostly snowbound in New York for about 4 days, while police have been mum on what Wheeler did in Washington, D.C. on December 28th, the day he and Clyce parted ways in New York. She said he had lunch at the Metropolitan Club, steps from the White House. Wheeler's younger son from a first marriage, who was in Africa when his father was killed. Their goal, they said, is to keep the case in the public eye so investigators, led by Newark police, can find this killer. In addition to the revelations and insights by Clyce, the News Journal also has learned more details about Wheeler's movements December 30th, which he spent in downtown Wilmington and where he was last seen on surveillance camera, headed towards the city's rough east side at 8:42 p.m. Details that tend to support the notion Wheeler was becoming more unstable on his last day. At about 8 a.m. that day, Wheeler walked into the Subway eatery on Delaware Avenue in Wilmington, ordered a coffee, and paid in cash from some loose bill in his pocket. But during his brief stop, owner Dan Maxwell took notice of the customer. "He looked like a homeless person," said Maxwell, noting that Wheeler wore no coat on this frigid morning, and though wearing dress slacks and shoes, his white shirt was filthy from the elbow down, almost blackened. He looked like he had been living in that shirt for some time. At about 3:30 p.m. that day, one in which he also spent time in the nearby Nemours building and visited a law office there. Wheeler stopped into the Small Business Administration office on the building's 11th floor, asking a ride to Philadelphia. Jane Armstrong, the office director, said Wheeler spent 5 minutes in her office, but would not describe his demeanor or appearance. Maxwell said since he's spoken about Wheeler to an employee of the SBA office who frequents his shop, she told him that when Wheeler approached her, he identified himself as a fellow federal employee. Asked which agency, and he gave no answer and departed. Maxwell said the woman told of the new disclosures. New York police spokesman Lieutenant Mark Farrell would not comment, though Newmark does not have a homicide unit. Farrell said Detective Nicholas Sanson is working full-time on the case, with help from fellow officers. Wilmington police and the FBI are assisting. We are still working the case, Farrell said. Farrell said inquiries at Wilmington hotels have not helped investigators find where Wheeler spent the night of December 29th, but Clyde said she thinks he spent it somewhere in Wilmington indoors. That was unusual, she said, because he only went to Wilmington for one reason: to catch the train to New York or Washington. Clyde said she doesn't know why Wheeler would have wanted to go to Philadelphia on December 30th, except to make his way to NYC, to meet and accompany her to a wedding in Boston. The slaying of Wheeler is the second time such a tragedy has befallen one of the Clyce's loved ones. In 1995, her younger sister Emily Fisher, a Memphis socialite, was stabbed to death, and the case took years to solve. Now at 67, Clyce is dealing with the anguish of not knowing her husband was killed, but of trying to piece together the puzzle of a case forensics experts call an investigator's nightmare. Police aren't sure whether he was killed in Wilmington, in Newark, where his body was put into a commercial trash bin that was emptied early on December 31st, or somewhere in between. Clyce's reward offer has promoted no good leads, Farrell said, noting that it has been weeks since any were received. Clyce, who runs a Cambodian silk import business, spoke openly about her life and times with Wheeler, whom she met in 1993 when both were divorced and had 2 children apiece. They married in 1997. In an interview pierced by her nervous laughter, Clyce often rubbed her reddened eyes as she described her late husband as a man committed to the nation's security, even as he often forgot where he parked his car. Wheeler's son said his sister Kate often told the story of that as a child. She would see her dad driving past their home instead of parking. "There goes Daddy," she would explain. Said the young Wheeler, "You could say he's absent-minded, but he just had his mind on bigger things." Clyce also described him as very mischievous, noting that once, when suspended from an online forum of the U.S. Military Academy class of 1966 for harsh comments, he created a fictitious identity that fooled ex-classmates. She openly discussed his mental state, saying he took medication for his manic depression and calling him a little Asperger-y. He was not, however, diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, a form of autism characterized by high cognitive functions but difficulties in social interaction. He was once hospitalized for a period of time, she did not specify, after exhibiting behavior that she called unusually focused-driven. In recent years, though, Clyce said Wheeler had no significant episodes, though he sometimes ran out of the medication because he traveled so much. She said he took it regularly, on the rare times when he was out of medication. He just became in a bad mood, she said. All seemed fine over the Christmas weekend, she said. Wheeler arrived in New York late on December 24th, and they spent a few days Harlem condominium with family. On December 27th, Clyce said the couple planned to dine out with another couple, but Clyce said she felt sick, so Wheeler went alone. When she woke up the next day, December 28th, he was gone. She expected him back in a few days for the wedding. they'd never smoke again. Wheeler didn't even discuss his plans for Washington, except that he wanted to drop off Christmas gifts to a few friends. She didn't expect him to go to Mitre Corp, the McLean VA defense contractor, for which consulted on cyber defense and other issues, because he rarely visited the complex. She doesn't know what Wheeler did or whom he saw in Washington, except that he ate at the Metropolitan Club about midday on December 28th. Wheeler, who worked for the Pentagon in the last 3 Republican presidential administrations, belonged to the club frequented by military and political elite such as former Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld. Wheeler sometimes spent the night in one of their fancy suites. Wheeler wasn't suited for domestic life, and the couple, with homes in Delaware and New York, were apart more than they were together, Kleiss said. The best of all possible worlds for John would be to live in the Metropolitan Club. It's a power place. Police have said they believe he returned to Wilmington that night by train, but can't account for where he slept. About 11:30 p.m. on December 28th, though, someone wearing a hooded sweatshirt, who a neighbor said matched Wheeler's husky description, threw smoke bombs into the first floor of a home under construction across the street from his house. For years, Wheeler and Kleiss have been locked in a legal dispute with the owners of the home, which particularly blocked their view of the Delaware River. A Philadelphia television station later reported that fire investigators found Wheeler's iPhone in the house, though authorities would not confirm the story. Kleiss wouldn't say whether she knew what happened to Wheeler's phone, but said that the last email the family received from him early on Wednesday, December 29th, was not sent from the phone, which he normally used for messages. Nor did Kleiss or other family members hear from Wheeler by phone again. Asked about speculation that Wheeler attacked his legal foes with a smoke bomb, Kleiss said, "It would be sort of a crazy thing to do. It doesn't bring about any positive result." Asked to explain Wheeler's wanderings on the 29th and 30th, Kleiss and his son can only guess. Why would Wheeler want his pharmacist to drive him to Wilmington? Maybe he was afraid of something in the house or around him, she said. He wouldn't want to come back here. He wouldn't want anyone to know where he was. Of the parking garage video, she said it wouldn't be out of character for Wheeler to carry his shoe if his foot hurt, nor would he have been embarrassed to do so. She also noted that at one point he starts to go up the stairs and starts to come down. He's being cautious. A garage security guard had said previously that Wheeler told her his briefcase had been stolen. Kleiss also said she's seen the final video of him leaving the New Mowers building and heading east, and said it looked to me like he was trying to hide his face. The two also wondered what happened in the Newcastle house, which neighbor Rob Dill found in disarray early on December 30th. Chairs were tipped over, dishes were broken, cleaner was on the kitchen floor, and Wheeler's West Point sword was out of its scabbard. Kleiss called the condition of the house kind of strange. It wasn't like Wheeler to make a mess, she said. But if a burglar entered, nothing appeared to have been taken. As the days and weeks with no answers turn into months, the frustration has only increased for Wheeler's family. The younger Wheeler, a 34-year-old University of Virginia graduate student, said he can only hope investigators unravel all the strange elements and get to the bottom of it. Kleiss said the truth must emerge. They have to solve it, she said. There's no way they can't. Hi y'all, sorry about the noise in the background. My neighbor has a really big truck and he just keeps coming back and forth. So, I'm gonna wrap this video up. What I feel like that happened to John Wheeler is, what if he went out for drinks or something and someone drugged him, put date rape in his drug or something? And to me, watching the video and everything, it just seems like he's trying to get away from somebody, trying to get help. He looks distressed. He doesn't really look like he's, unstable. He just looks like there's something going on and he's trying to make it back home. I was really interested in this case because he's such a high profile case. being an employee of the Pentagon, I thought it was very interesting. And I really thought, wow, what if it is a conspiracy about the government trying to shut him up? What if there's something going on in the background that no one knew about? And they had to make it look like a mystery or an accident. There was a theory that I heard about that some people were speculating that maybe he was trying to go to sleep and it was really cold outside because he didn't have a jacket on, and he was in the dumpster. And when the guys came and picked up the dumpster and threw all of the stuff, in the back of the truck, it compresses it. So some people speculate maybe he was crushed and died then. I don't know. I mean, his behavior is strange. He could have easily asked to use a phone somewhere and call his wife or call somebody to help him, since supposedly he left his phone in that neighbor's house. I don't know. It's just real strange, this one. But I hope one day they solve it. I mean, it's weird. Alright, remember, please like and subscribe to my channel. Sorry, this is coming out a little bit late. Took a little bit more time to research it. I love y'all very much. Thank you for listening to all of my stories and being a supporter of my channel. Remember, I do have Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all my videos. I put all the links down below. I hope y'all have a very, very good weekend. Until then, remember, it's scary out there.